So, as most of you know, Pokemon Sword and Shield has premiered the use of DLCs in the Pokemon franchise. And despite everyone having mixed feelings about let alone Sword and Shield in general, the DLC was its saving grace for making it the worst Pokemon game in my opinion, because personally the DLC was the best part of the game. And now I'm sure that DLC is a feature that is here to stay with the Pokemon games, so we might as well be optimistic about it, right? In the Crown Tundra, there were a bunch of Easter eggs for the Sinnoh games that I briefly go over in the video here, and on top of that, the remakes were leaked to be released next year. So I figured that I would make a video about my suggestions in hopes of what they will do with the DLC in the Gen 4 remake. Now, I know I may be biased, because Generation 4 is my favorite Pokemon generation, the Sinnoh region is my favorite region, and of course, it has my favorite Pokemon professor, Daddy Rowan. But on a serious note, Sinnoh is pretty much perfect in my eyes. Outside of maybe 2 areas, there's not really much that I feel like they can expand on. And on top of that, I also have a few suggestions of something a little bit more ambitious that they could do. Firstly, I think using it to expand on the lore of the mythical Pokemon of the region would be an amazing use for it. Because I feel like outside of the people who played the events we had for them, most of the fanbase has no idea what experiences there were to get them. And I'm aware that a lot of the fanbase also couldn't care less. But for the people that are largely invested in these games, I'm sure it'd be very fun to experience that for the first time again. And given that they gave us a DLC for more or less 2 Pokemon lines, I feel like this is the most possible idea. My second suggestion would be expanding on the Distortion world, which so many fans have been begging for. And if this remake takes place in the future, they could show us what Cyrus has been doing for the last few years. And on the flip side, if they're doing a pure retelling, maybe they could just show us what the hell he was going after when we defeated him. And maybe even show off more Pokemon that Arceus banished. Since Giratina is supposed to be the Pokemon equivalent of the devil, and in Christian mythology, Lucifer isn't the only fallen angel. And maybe 6 brand spanking new mythical Pokemon would be way too much, but hey, they did add 7 legendaries in the Crown Tundra, so I'm just spitballing ideas. And before I move on, an honorable mention would possibly be a story expanding on Riley, Cheryl, and the others, even possibly using them regardless of what they end up doing. It's worth saying that I think if they keep the price point at $30, I think the previously mentioned possibilities have the best chance of happening. And for these next ones, I'm pretty sure that if they did make it, it wouldn't be $30 DLC anymore. Now, onto my more ambitious ideas. We all know about Poke-Earth. My biggest complaint with this franchise is that the Johto games are the only ones that have 2 regions in them. So I'm sure you guys know what I'm going at this point. I think having another region would be a really good idea. I want to go with the most realistic option, which are going to be the regions that don't have recent games and also don't have remakes anytime soon. So Galar and Kanto aren't going to be an option. And I'm 99% convinced that Let's Go Johto is going to come out in either 2022 or the year after. So that leaves us with Hoenn, Unova, Kalos, and Alola. And personally, I think it's between Unova and Alola, which is genuinely just because of the size. I mean, Hoenn is gigantic, and there's like 1,000,000 miles of ocean. And I just don't think many people would be favorable for an optional revisit to Hoenn because of that. Kalos is the biggest region that we've had so far, so I think the most realistic option would really just be Unova and Alola. Since Unova is the only region so far, besides Johto, that doesn't have a 3D version. And I feel like Alola would work best for the DLC experience, since there's no gyms in that region. My explanation story-wise for us revisiting whatever region will be later in the video. And now, another option which I would prefer more would be us visiting some regions from the other games. I'm talking about the regions from the Pokemon Ranger games, Conquest, and Pokemon Coliseum and Pokemon XD. Personally, I loved the Pokemon Ranger games, so revisiting any of them would be a wonderful nostalgia trip for me. And I'm sure plenty of other people will feel the same way. I think the most interesting region to revisit would be the modern version of the region from the Conquest games, since it took place in the feudal Japan time period. The story explanation for this could be a little bit more lighthearted in the vein of the Isle of Armor experience, where we accompany one of the companion characters to their home region and experience the story alongside them. Or maybe even a darker tone of Team Galactic trying to take control of those regions, and we're enlisted by Looker to help him. And finally, to give us a little bit of a sneak peek at Gen 9, why not have us go to several remote islands that are just outside of the Gen 9 region? This way, they don't need to dump a crazy amount of Pokemon onto us like they would if we actually went into the Gen 9 region. So maybe just a handful of new Pokemon and some regional variants. And I think that would be a nice way to test how the fans would react to the new region. So this way, they can make adjustments if the reaction is largely negative, or if people really like the idea that they're going for. Especially since as they create more and more Pokemon, fans are becoming less and less impressed. So I think it would be a great way to test the waters. Now, if you guys have watched this far, I want to thank you guys so much for listening to my asinine rant about my hopes of what they will do with the Sinnoh remake to make it as perfect as possible. If you guys have any suggestions, leave them in the comments down below. I'll make sure to check them out. And if you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like and maybe even subscribe. And as always, the support is appreciated more than you guys will ever know, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.